Hello everyone, welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. We are jumping in right where we left off yesterday and kind of doing an extended to yesterday's extended, which did change up a little bit from what I originally said I was going to ask. So we asked that, but we also asked an additional question in there. And of course I'll do a little summary of those because I just always like to make sure that even if you didn't get in to see all the detail, you'll still be able to follow along, especially because we're going to basically be building on that story with today's reading, which we often do. So as always, this will be a general reading for this collective and all of the messages are very much connected. So if it resonates with you, check out some of the other older readings and go back as far as you need to make sure that you're all caught up on just kind of what these messages are out here for you. We're going to read with the Navigator's Tarot of the Mystic Sea. And then I have Dreams of Gaia over here. And then I have the Elemental Oracle when it comes time to get to the Oracle. So it's been a pretty intense week. If you've been with me, we actually ended up, I popped an extra reading in on Tuesday because things were getting so intense. I was getting scary notes from people. Just about what is all of this intensive energy, and it turns out it was a fairly significant shift with them at about the same time you were having a fairly significant shift yourself, and it made for a pretty volatile combination. And so now as we shift into Friday, as we shift into the weekend, let's get a feel for just kind of what that energetic and emotional backdrop has changed into here. That's where we're going to start out. So we always like to start by getting this backdrop because it helps us to take its context for the rest of the reading. Okay, so this first one is a Six of Water. Six of Water is all about memories. It's all about looking back in a comfortable way, in a nostalgic, almost a little bit of a painful, sad memories sort of way. Here, though, it's looking back on the things that have not gone right and being, just certain that you don't want to do it again, don't want to make that mistake again. Here we have the Six of Earth, and the Six of Earth is about, this is kind of living in a fantasy world a little bit. So without fail, the Dreams of Gaia deck has this earth element that feels like a dream, or it feels like it's obviously not just the whole story. So a lot of times what'll come out when I see an earth card come out, it'll be a perception or it'll be a concept. In this case, it's a little bit of a, I know how this should be working. Here's a person who recognizes mistakes they've made in the past, doesn't want to make those mistakes again. This feels like your person. And here there's a sense of wanting to do equal give and take, and the concept of equal give and take, but not necessarily the practice of it. So that's what comes out with that one. It's not necessarily the practice of getting it right or ever having truly gotten it right with you, but the idea of being able to get it right and wanting to get it right. We also have the Queen of Air, which is capable of moving in, like just saying, I'm going to cut and move in this direction. Queen of Air is incredibly capable of doing that just from a very logical and logic-based perspective. It's super evident to this person what needs to happen, but I think where it's going to fall apart is going to be in the execution, especially given the energy, the overthinking energy that I'm getting out of this, not exactly nostalgia, but trying not to make mistakes from the past card over here. So this is a person who is wrapped up in their thoughts pretty deeply. Absolutely wrapped up in there, not necessarily making the most sense, but could be good for a conversation or two. So let's see here. We've got transformation, the concept of transformation, and this tower still sits in the reverse. So even if you end up having a conversation, this is Transformation is also the death. Yeah, it says death. It's also the death card. This is about, I know that change needs to occur. They got a death card in the upright and a tower in the reverse, I believe, Wednesday when we did that reading. The death card in the upright did not necessarily mean they were just allowing this change to happen or moving forward with it. And the tower card in the reverse, I will also say, does not mean they are just 100% trying to avoid it or refuse to go that direction. So there's a little bit of a back and forth happening within them. And so there's some, I think it's Mercury retrograde related desire for balance on top of the usual desire for balance. And so this would be about fixing something that has gone wrong, that they feel like has stayed wrong long enough. Seven of Swords. This is the way that I like to see the Seven of Swords come out, because a lot of the time it's about deception. It's about not telling the truth. It's about not having ethics. So it can also be about a strategy. And sometimes it's building a strategy that's a sneaky one. I don't get the sneakiness off this card so much as I do strategy. Here's the thing though. It feels a little bit premature. Like, I don't think they've got a strategy developed. I feel like this is the sort of energy that causes them to build a strategy. And this is your person being caused to build a strategy because they feel like they don't have the ability to do something that they want to do. So now we have the Two of Wands. And remember, the Two of Wands for you has often been so relevant to the set of values that this person has been working to accomplish or been working to change, upending some older values that maybe they were raised with. I think we've talked about this coming from someone else's pain. So it's values that they were raised with that comes from ancient pain that doesn't even belong to them. It's from previous generations. So here's the thing. They have a lot to work through because they recognize a need to get across this barrier. But this is the best depiction of this barrier that I could give you. So we've got the Lovers card here, and you see these two that are mirroring one another. This is what you guys have been doing. You have been doing such intensive mirroring, and in some cases, like, they get up close to you in this mirror, and then it becomes too close and they bail. So that's the nature of the conversation that the two of you are supposed to be having here at some point in these next few weeks. And remember, we were told to watch the timing of the Mercury retrograde. So that's most of August. I think it goes from like the 5th, which was this past Monday, out to the 28th. So we're in it. And it really is most of the month, because what I got was most of the month of August. Watch most of the month of August, which I happen to know is a Mercury retrograde, and it's supposed to be relevant to something that has what we were learning in 2018. The amount of mirroring that the two of you have been doing is astronomical, and the fact that this conversation, this 1 in a million conversation energy, kind of creates that mirroring crisis that occurs for them, where they suddenly realize, oh my goodness, I can't handle this. It's gotten too intense, and they run away and retract a little bit. Like I said previously, some of you have already experienced that a little bit. They are desperately in need of controlling the situation, or feeling like they can be in control of a situation. One of the only ways they know how to do this is to run away or to not be consistent. Generally speaking, that type of inconsistency sends a strong enough message that people will walk away and not tolerate their behavior anymore beyond the time when they create the equivalent of a narcissist's final discard. But it isn't a final discard. It looks like one, but it's really not. That's one of the things that I would say, and they are constantly looking around to just kind of see if you are still following them, if you're still chasing them. That's part of it, because they can't get their mind out of this, and that's one of the things that frustrates them so much. They look at their situation, they look at this recent situation that's happened with this third party, and with this Nine of Cups, this really represents, here are the places that I'm not happy. They have that ringing through their head and just kind of throughout their mind, and recognizing, but I have this other situation over here that made me incredibly happy that I am unable to get it out of my mind. And now it's been so long that they aren't quite sure how to come back and be consistent. They have fantasies about what that might look like, but as we can see, they're not feeling super stable about their capacity to pull this off. And based on what we've seen from them in the past, I don't think it should be I don't know that we should be super surprised if they feel like they can't pull it off, because they haven't been able to give you, they haven't been able to provide that equal give and take for you at any point for any extended period of time. They're aware of it, but I don't think that they're in a position to necessarily resolve it. Okay, so let's get into now what you need to know for today, and especially what you need to know for this weekend, because I think you still have the energy of that conversation coming your way. And right now I see that this is a lot of eddying of currents of energy trying to get you ready for that, or more trying to get them ready for it. I don't know how ready they truly are. And, you know, so we have the situation with their third party that's kind of what threw us some curves this week. And there are some threats associated with that. We looked into that in the extended reading, and we saw that you are actually part of what is threatening this third party situation. And you know, the lessons that are unlearned from the situation, I've been talking about them over and over for quite some time now. They are threatening your person. That is actually what's threatening them. So they are not yet making the connection that you are part of that. That you and your and their third party are both connected to this lesson, or these sets of lessons that they're learning. And so they're kind of pushing things away, not quite making the realization that it's all very much connected. But remember, they were picturing how life was going to be with you. So that was actually the other question that we asked in the extended. Here we have the 9 of fire, and that's kind of, so it brings me to, I thought of that because I saw this. This is about fantasy. This is about letting down the guards, letting down the walls, and just allowing those fantasies to happen. Because I've talked about in previous readings how they could be so destructive of their own fantasies, or so or I guess the word that I'm looking for is really, they were rejecting elements. I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this in the way that it actually shows up in my heart. So they were rejecting elements of their fantasies, and it was causing the entire fantasy not to work very well. And that's kind of, I see them getting a little bit better with that, but I also see them recognizing that that's what they're doing, and recognizing there's a reason for it. There is a lot of consternation internally, and a tendency to not want to hide it anymore. You see this person holding the happy face, and underneath you see the confusion and the fear and the sadness, with the blindfold and the tears coming down. And here's a person who has a lot of doubts, but they haven't really been showing it. And here the truth starts to come out for them a little bit more. And that, I think, is what happens if you end up having a conversation with them. I'm curious to know if anything else around kind of the fantasy piece comes out, because that started coming up again in yesterday's extended. I asked the question, I felt like I had to ask the question about how they were picturing the life with you. You know, what are they picturing? Because we saw that come out in yesterday's YouTube, and it turned out to be like a mix between their fantasy world and what they have experienced with the third party. So just sort of dropping in either fantasy or the known when they come in to have gaps, and it creates this really inconsistent energy. An inconsistent energy that means they don't have a ton of momentum that can be built up with that inconsistency. We see that here with this, and we see the results of it here. So this is the abundance card in the reverse. Abundance doesn't get a chance to get up and running when they're constantly shortchanging and undermining themselves, which is essentially what's happening here. And so being put in your presence, if they come to you and they do this, I think it could be very challenging for you not to point out that they are undermining themselves. You run the risk of becoming that the equivalent of that narcissist supply. So I say the equivalent of, because you may not be dealing with a narcissist, but instead potentially dealing with someone who employs some of the same defense mechanisms. So I'm not in the business of diagnosing anyone as a narcissist, but I do know a tendency of a narcissist when I feel one. So we have the nine of swords here, and the 3 of pentacles coming in the reverse. The 9 of swords in the reverse has to do with the way that they're allowing themselves to move toward you. So one of the things that we saw, and And this was kind of as we were coming into last weekend, and we were just sort of watching the energy of this month sort of come out. It had a lot to do with this 1 in a million energy, like a conversation that just feels like it's okay. It's okay to have this conversation. It's okay for the two of you to come together. This is the relaxing of those concerns and those anxieties. However, the Three of Pentacles here is not necessarily, the world is, the energy, the universe's energy is not necessarily going to make it easy for the two of you to come together in this conversation. So we have a couple of possibilities that we've been hearing about. One is kind of unintentional, where the two of you run up against each other, like in the grocery store, and you don't really have much of a choice to pretend like you didn't see each other or anything like that. And then there's more of an intentional feel to this one, like they have made a decision to reach out to you. Okay, so we have the Archpriestess, which is like the High Priestess, and this is about secrecy. It is often about secrecy, but in this case, it's about secrecy and wanting to share the secrets with you. It's like divine masculine messages, wanting to give you divine masculine messages, but not wanting to have to live with the results of having done so. They want to be able to be partners with you. So what I get from this Two of Cups is this incredibly strong feeling of like, the two of you standing next to each other and just gaining power from standing next to each other, like the very basic concept of a power couple, the two of you building off one another. There is such a strong sense of that building off of one another, and they want to be able to have that with you, but they don't want to have to lose face or lose whatever it is that they're going to lose in order to get it. So there's this sense of them, like almost, this is why we see the unconventional nature of the relationship that started to come out in Wednesday's extended reading. We saw something about an unconventional kind of unorthodox type of relationship, and I think that has to do with what they're after here with you. So I don't feel like they feel like they have much choice of going this direction. We have a star and a moon. I feel like we're missing the sun, and that it absolutely belongs here, but it's more of a perception. Just like with the Archpriestess, though, of I need to keep my secrets together and I need to keep them under wraps. With the moon, there's that sense of, how far can I get without telling you what I need to tell you? You know, this is your person talking. How far can they get without telling you what you absolutely would need to know in order to understand the full situation? And then, of course, here with the Star card, this has to do with, well, it has to do with hope. It has to do with faith. It has to do with realizing that you're moving in the right direction, or realizing how to move in the right direction. This is the strongest argument for them reaching out to you that has shown up in this reading. And yet there's been this pervasive feeling of them wanting to reach out to you really across the whole month. And the thing is, I think some of them are really holding off and trying their best not to do that, trying to make sure that they can stay away from it and stay on the up and up and deal with just what's happening with this third party. But of course those things, sorry, I had to bend down. Of course those things are two very connected pieces. They're incredibly connected. So the Queen of Cups came up in the Wednesday reading, and it felt like they knew that you were willing to provide them some unconditional love. They've seen it, they've felt it, but they don't necessarily feel confident about it. Here we have the realization that it's there, and almost like a faith, like they're willing to do a trust fall. You know, they're willing to give a shot, which that's the part that may feel a little 1 in a million for me, because that's not something that we typically get from this person. It's not particularly well thought out. There is a need for them to get into that hermit cave and start to really do some thinking. And I feel like that's not just something that I'm going to come up with and say, even though I've been saying it since like March or April or something like that. It's not just me. This is something that's going to come up for them. They're going to get to a place where they say, wait a minute, why is it that I can't stop thinking about you. Like, why can't I stop thinking about this person? Why can't I get past this? They are going to feel like they need to understand that and to understand why it is that they're doing what they're doing. So it's not just a need that I'm reading from over here. It's also something that becomes very evident that needs to happen. So, there are definitely some things that they want to pass on to you. I think when we get into the extended, we're going to get into the type of divine masculine messages that they would want you to know. Like we saw up here, they would want you to know, and they want to have the experience of telling you, but they wish that you could maybe just forget after they said it. So it would be like a self-destruct message. They feel foolish. This fool in the reverse actually feels somewhat foolish. In the upright, it's often going off into the unknown, trying something that's a little bit new, uncharted territory. Here's somebody considering uncharted territory who feels foolish for a mistake they haven't even made yet, but yet they feel like they're going to have to make it. And this is why I kind of feel like we need to get into, break it down, get into your safe place, and give us those divine masculine messages. So that's going to be the goal when we get into the extended, just allowing this energy to feel comfortable and to come forth with these messages. Because the deal is, they feel like they're foolish. They feel like a fool, but they feel like it is energy that they can't not move forward with. There's such a strong sense of, I need to move forward. I've got this unfinished business just kind of staring at me, and it doesn't feel like it can be denied. So we're going to do we're going to do divine masculine messages when we get into the extended. Let's look at the messages for you, the areas for your focus. Where do you need to be focusing right now? In today's energy, your area of focus. Okay, so we have the one of air, the real truths about yourself. Things that you may not necessarily associate with this person, things that feel like they are uncomfortable to you, that maybe you don't have an issue with the way you're doing something, but maybe the way that you're thinking about it. And you feel like you've got right action, but not right thought figured out, perhaps. Let's see here. This one is the Six of Fire, but it's in the reverse. Understanding that you are very much still working through something. So there is a potential for failure, but you haven't gotten to that failure yet. Sometimes when you see the Six of Fire, you got to ask if there's a failure in the situation. And here I'm seeing there isn't one, but there is potential for failure. It is a place where you could fail. Okay, and then the next one, so we got more air. This is a Four of Air, and it's a chance to, like, it feels like an opportunity to sit down and be studious. This is a chance to learn something, but not to have to already know. It feels like so oftentimes you walk into a situation where you already have to have some awareness of how to handle it. You already have to have all that information walking in. In this case, you're going to walk into something where you don't already have all the information, and no one's really going to expect you to. You do have the potential, like I was saying, to fail in this. Watch for those truths. That's going to be part of how you don't fail in this situation. Ace of Cups in the reverse. All right, this is not a warning. This is an instruction. So when you get to this situation, you want to suspend the emotional side, not necessarily deaden it by any stretch, but stick it off to the side and say this is a separate quantity. It's a separate consideration. And you just want to go ahead and consider the logical piece first. Then you can weigh in that emotional side, but go ahead and separate them out for the purposes of this. You have a Nine of Wands here in the reverse. This is going to be how this works. So the Nine of Wands is about the release of concerns. It's about the release of a need to control outcomes, needing to understand outcomes, trusting that things are going to turn out the way that they need to turn out. And that's really what that Nine of Wands is all about. Now we have the Knight of Wands to go right next to it. Now the Knight of Wands in the reverse, this is one that we saw come up a couple days ago where you were probably going to have a tendency come up in you to disappear. on a situation, or it feels like ghosting out or completely disappearing, choosing not to make a response, whatever it is. Think carefully about the way that it comes across, because it feels like it's going to look similar to one of the things your person has done to you, but you're not going to be thinking what you think your person was thinking. So it's an opportunity to just kind of see a little bit of how they might be perceiving things. And yeah, here's the clarity. That opportunity to kind of see what might be going through someone else's mind for a change. Okay, let's see what else we have here. I saw that Page of Wands there in the reverse, a warning that you may tend toward a sadness or a bit of an existential concern in this energy. Yeah, your fears may have a tendency to win out. You're encouraged to take things a little bit slowly and recognize, give them a chance to have give the fears their airtime rather than simply suppressing them. With the Seven of Pentacles, this is going to be an opportunity to reinvent yourself. Again, the concept of divine timing pops in for me on this one with the Seven of Pentacles. You also have the Destiny card. Okay, so there is something incredibly important here about being able to find a balance for yourself, about being able to establish what you want yourself to have going forward, and not having it be based on anything anyone else would want for you or ask from you or expect of you. And so this is about determining what that is on your own basis. We have this Six of Wands again. So what I'm seeing is there's an easy answer where you can just kind of step to the side and say, yeah, okay, I'll just take what everyone says I should want. But then there's this go out there and actually figure out what it is that's going to constitute your wish fulfillment, thus creating no need for a huge redirection later. So you don't have to have your midlife crisis, because that's essentially what that is. Now we have an Ace of Pentacles here in the reverse. The thing for you to note here is that it's like this Three of Pentacles over here. Sometimes things are not going to fall into place for you. This is also about timing. You've got something that doesn't open. It's a door that you go up, you try the door, it's locked. You try the key that's supposed to open it and it won't open. It's not the right time for this door to open. You've got to resolve this other piece over here first. But it won't be simple. You've got the Knight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords in this case is a card with the reverse. It's a card of fear, hiding, and the sense of, you know, I could just walk away from this. Here's the thing. If you just walk away from this, and I think you know this, it will be back. So, all right, we're going to stop with this one and move on to the extended, where in the extended, we're going to divine masculine messages, because it's clear that your person is wanting to bring you some divine masculine messages. Everything is just really kind of clenched up for them right now. They have a desire to bring it to you, but it's like they would want to tell you and then have you forget all of it. But they still want the benefit of having said it to you. So that's what we're going to go into when we go into the extended. The link will be down below. I will look forward to hopefully seeing you there, or I will see you again in tomorrow's reading.